Wife slept with her boss and wanted me to raise their baby. I filed for divorce and took everything. I'm a 36-year-old man who thought he had a steady marriage. No fireworks or drama, just a comfortable routine. My wife and I met about 7 years ago and tied the knot soon after. We lived in a modest home I'd purchased before we married, both working regular jobs. Our life was hardly glamorous but felt secure. Over time, I noticed she'd grown restless, often complaining about money or dreaming of a grander lifestyle. I used to assume everyone daydreams occasionally, only I never imagined she'd chase those dreams through betrayal. It all started with subtle clues: late nights at the office, sudden weekend work trips, and a repeated mention of her boss. She'd go on about how he was supportive, how he guided her career. Initially, I felt no jealousy. I wanted her to succeed. But her eyes lit up whenever she spoke of him, describing his generosity, wealth, and big house. I shrugged it off as a crush or fascination. The problem was, she grew secretive about her phone. She'd hide messages, lock it away, act defensive if I casually mentioned seeing her screen. Tension brewed in the background. Then, one evening, she dropped a bombshell. "We need to talk." My heart sank. She announced she was pregnant. But I knew we'd never actively tried for a baby. We talked about kids in a vague future sense, not in the immediate. My shock gave way to cautious excitement. Maybe it was a happy accident, but her expression was haunted, not joyous. When I tried hugging her, she barely embraced me back. I should have known something was off. Days later, I found a test result slip from a clinic in her bag. It confirmed the pregnancy, but had a date that indicated she'd known for weeks. She never told me. My confusion grew. Why hide it? When I confronted her, she claimed she was unsure how I'd react. I told her I'd be supportive, though I was rattled. She said nothing, tears in her eyes. Something big was unspoken. The real revelation came 2 weeks afterward, when I overheard a heated phone conversation she had in the next room. She was whisper shouting, "You said you'd handle it if he found out, and I can't keep this secret forever." My blood pounded. I pressed my ear to the door. She ended the call abruptly, storming into the kitchen. Her face blanched when she saw me standing there. I asked who she was talking to. She hesitated, then admitted it was her boss. My chest tightened with dread. I demanded to know if the baby was his. She burst into tears, confirming it. She claimed it was a single mistake, that she never intended to cheat. But it spiraled into an affair, culminating in pregnancy. My mind reeled. This woman, my wife, had carried on with her wealthy boss, and now she was pregnant with his child. Trembling with anger, I asked how she intended to fix this. She stared at me, eyes brimming with panic, then tried a bizarre plea: "We can raise it as ours. He's not stepping up, and we can't let an innocent child suffer." Her expectation was for me to quietly accept her child with another man. She even insisted I sign the birth certificate as the father. The nerve and the betrayal was staggering. My instincts told me to run, to end the marriage. But I tried to keep calm, see if there was any salvageable explanation. She insisted she loved me, but got swept up by promises of money and excitement. She tearfully claimed her boss was now ghosting her. She had no support from him. So she wanted me to take on fatherhood for a baby that wasn't mine. She tried guilt-tripping me, calling me the best man for the job, that I'd be a wonderful father. The gall of that request, pretend her affair baby was ours, made me feel physically ill. I demanded she pack her things, that I wanted her out. She screamed about how I was heartless, how I should show compassion to an unborn child. But I was done. I told her if she truly wanted help, go seek it from her boss, the baby's actual father. She left in tears, cursing me. My mind raced to next steps. Lawyer up, finalize this fiasco before she pinned anything on me legally. If she'd stooped to faking fatherhood, no telling what else she might do. After she stormed out, I sat on the couch, dazed by the betrayal. She'd violated every vow, expected me to raise a child that wasn't mine, and used manipulative guilt to pressure me. My phone buzzed with frantic texts from her, pleas, insults, everything in between. I ignored them, needing clarity. That night, I barely slept, calling in sick from work the next day to find a divorce attorney. The attorney, an old friend's recommendation, listened in disbelief at my story. A pregnant wife, the father is her boss, and she wanted me to assume paternity. The attorney calmly explained that while I had no legal obligation to sign the child's birth certificate, I must be cautious. If she put my name on official documents, it could entangle me in future obligations. So I had to act swiftly. I filed for divorce on grounds of adultery. The attorney hammered out the details. We pushed for minimal spousal support, given her blatant affair. We also had a decent shot at preserving most of my assets, because I'd owned the house before marriage. The attorney recommended I gather evidence, texts, any receipt showing she'd used joint funds on her boss or business. But I discovered an unexpected advantage. She wasn't on our property deed, and we had no kids. I refused to claim her unborn child as mine. My attorney said the court likely wouldn't award her the house or significant support if we proved her infidelity and betrayal. One day later, I braced for confrontation. She returned to the house, demanding we discuss the future. I asked her to meet me in a public place, some diner, fearing drama if we did it at home. She arrived looking tired, tried to hold my hands. I pulled away. She said her boss had essentially ghosted her, refusing her calls, likely to avoid child support claims. She was panicked, with no stable plan for the baby. She insisted we work together, meaning I'd do the right thing and raise the child as my own. I stared at her, incredulous. She actually believed I'd be that naive. I let her know I'd filed for divorce. Her face twisted in shock, then fury. She accused me of abandoning her in her time of need. I retorted that she'd abandoned me by sleeping with her boss. She slung more guilt trips, referencing how the baby's innocent, how I'm the only stable father figure. She offered we could rekindle romance, forging a new start. My stomach churned with revulsion. She never apologized for her cheating or recognized the pain. She just wanted a provider. I said no. She demanded I at least let her remain in the house through the pregnancy. I said it was impossible. I wanted her out. She left, crying about how I'd regret it. My heart pounded with a mix of anger and heartbreak. The next days, I changed the locks. My attorney assured me it was legal since the house was solely in my name. My wife texted, calling me cruel, threatening to take me for all I'm worth if I didn't comply. That's when I reminded her I had proof of her affair, plus her texts requesting me to falsify paternity. She went quiet for a while, presumably realizing she had a weak case. Meanwhile, I soldiered on, the divorce process creeping forward. During the preliminary divorce hearings, she tried to spin a sob story about how she was misled by her boss, how she was desperate. The judge wasn't swayed by her crocodile tears. She insisted I'd been an inattentive husband, ignoring her emotional needs, but that fell flat once we provided evidence of her months-long affair. She also tried claiming partial ownership of my house, but the attorney pointed out I'd bought it before we married, and she never contributed significantly to its mortgage or upgrades. So that attempt flopped. She grew desperate. I saw it in her eyes. She tried to arrange private discussions, presumably to wrangle a better settlement. I refused, letting my lawyer handle it. She'd ask for a spousal support that seemed ridiculous, wanting monthly payments for years. My lawyer hammered back that her infidelity forfeited any moral standing to big alimony, and the short duration of marriage plus no kids for me further undermined her claim. The boss's child, if born, wasn't my responsibility. The judge agreed, giving me a strong position. In one dramatic hearing, she wept about how she'd be homeless, pregnant, with no support. My attorney calmly reminded the court that she had the option to pursue child support from her boss, the actual father. The judge nodded, nearly rolling his eyes at her deflections. I sat quietly, sorrow mixing with satisfaction. She'd pinned hopes on me, caving out of pity, but I held firm, determined not to be saddled with a child not mine or pay for her betrayal. Finally, the divorce settlement reached its conclusion. The judge ruled in my favor. She'd get minimal compensation, basically a small sum to cover any personal belongings she left behind, but no spousal support beyond a token amount for a short transitional period. The house remained mine, as did my bank accounts. She walked out of that courtroom shell-shocked, tears streaming, glaring at me as though I'd orchestrated her downfall. Perhaps I did, in a sense. I was never letting her keep a dime more than legally required. But truly, she orchestrated her own downfall by cheating and then trying to manipulate me into fatherhood for another man's baby. Friends who heard about the outcome said it was the biggest blow she could receive. She'd expected to walk away with half my assets, or at least a comfortable settlement, but ended up practically empty-handed. Not surprising, given the circumstances. I felt no remorse. She'd used me, lied to me, tried to chain me to a child that wasn't mine. The court recognized that injustice. Word traveled quickly among a few relatives or acquaintances. Some shook their heads at how she'd messed up her life. Her boss was nowhere to be found, no shock there. She presumably had to track him down for paternity tests if she wanted child support. Meanwhile, I changed my phone number to avoid her texts. She tried emailing me once or twice, hurling blame, claiming I ruined everything. But I blocked her. She had no hold on me anymore. Months later, I settled back into a quiet routine in my house. The tension eased. No more double-checking phone bills. No more confronting her about her boss. My attorney finalized all the paperwork. I was free. A strange sense of relief overcame me. Sure, I felt the pang of a failed marriage, but it was overshadowed by the knowledge that I'd escaped a monstrous situation, raising a child fathered by a man who vanished, courtesy of my wife's infidelity. After the divorce, some acquaintances asked if I felt guilty leaving her pregnant. I retorted that the baby wasn't mine. She made her bed, literally, with her boss. She could pursue him for support. I wasn't going to bear that burden out of misguided chivalry. A few folks who didn't know the full story judged me harshly, calling me cold. But those who knew the details understood that I had no obligation to raise a child born of betrayal. Meanwhile, she apparently scurried around trying to file lawsuits against her boss, claiming he promised to support her. Whether that panned out, I have no clue. Probably not. One day, I heard from a mutual friend that she was living in a cramped apartment, jobless, heavily pregnant, complaining how men are all trash. The friend said she had the gall to moan about the divorce settlement, acting like I robbed her. I had to laugh at the irony. She was the one who turned our marriage into a farce, yet she played victim. Typical manipulative approach. I also heard rumors that after the baby was born, she tried contacting me again, hoping for a reconciliation or some financial help. She must have realized her boss had no interest in fatherhood. But I'd moved on, changed my contact info. My father or mother are not relevant, so they remain out. Another friend said she posted a sob story on social media, claiming I abandoned a pregnant wife. The friend set the record straight in the comments, pointing out she cheated with her boss. The post was quickly deleted. No surprise. Though I glean no pleasure from seeing someone struggle, I can't deny a sense of justice that she faced the consequences of her actions. If she truly wanted stability, she shouldn't have betrayed me. The court awarding me the lion's share of assets was the final statement. She had no right to expect a cushy life after treating me like a fool. I guess she discovered that not every scorned husband rolls over. Overall, it's bittersweet. I didn't plan for a divorce in my early 30s. But living with daily suspicion and disrespect would have been worse. My attorney said it was one of the clearest adultery cases he'd seen, especially with her brazen demand that I raise her lover's child. That directness ironically helped me in negotiations, since the court saw how exploitative her plan was. She tried to spin illusions about me being controlling, but with all the evidence of her affair and stolen funds used for gifts for her boss, the judge dismissed her claims swiftly. Now, with the divorce behind me, I found a strange calm. I might date again someday, but I'll be more cautious about red flags. Meanwhile, my ex is out there, presumably grappling with single motherhood, minimal finances, and zero sympathy for me. She reaped that fate the moment she stepped out with her boss and thought I was gullible enough to raise their baby. In the end, I see it as a cautionary tale. Never let misplaced pity or societal pressure force you to take responsibility for someone else's betrayal. She slept with her boss, wanted me to raise their baby, so I filed for divorce and took everything I could legally. She ended up with minimal compensation, left to handle her choices on her own. I carry no guilt, only a renewed sense of self-worth, knowing that I refuse to be trapped in a life shaped by her deceit. Justice, in my eyes, was served.